Introduction, April. Kay, it's nice to see you. And as always, enjoying the flowers in your background.
Thanks.
I'm so thrilled to be able to chat with Kay today because it's so relevant to both, I think, something we've all personally experienced, but also professionally have such an investment in. And that is one of the most rapid and notable consumer shifts that we've all experienced in this last year. And that is the adoption of online grocery shopping. And when you think about the future of our business and the future of how technology can actually help, I felt like, Kay, your business and Kroger specifically has been in the thick of it. So I want to put that into perspective a little bit. I'm going to read a couple of stats around the adoption of online grocery shopping through this pandemic. So it's been said that 79% of consumers have bought groceries online, which is a jump from just 19% a year ago. 36% of consumers have said that they've changed who the primary grocery shopper is in their household because of COVID. US online grocery sales have increased from $1.2 billion in August of 2019 to almost $7.2 billion in June of 2020. That is a tremendous growth. And then according to a Business Insider Intelligence report, it's projected that as this pandemic begins to take its course, that online grocery shopping adoption will reach roughly 55% of US consumers by the end of 2024. So that's why I think it's something that we've all personally experienced. And that's why I'm just so excited to chat with you today, Kay, because you, like I said, have been at the front lines of this rapid transformation. And so a few public stats about just Kroger's results from 2020 to put this into further context. So they saw digital sales grew into Q4 that outpaced our full growth in that segment. So total digital sales and e-commerce growth of about 116% increase in 2020. That is outstanding. Kroger CEO Rodney McMullen recently shared on an earnings call that delivery sales increased 249% in Q4 alone, that pickup services expanded to more than 2,000 stores nationwide, and almost 2,000 delivery locations. And they're soon activating their Kroger delivery network that's going to be powered by Ocado. And lastly, their digital sales and e-commerce business in 2020 surpassed $10 billion. So you can see just how much of an impact that a business like Kroger has had both on us as a consumer, but when you think about the future of our business, how quickly you've had to change and pivot your media strategies to keep up with that real-time change of consumers. You can see why you've probably been incredibly busy this last year. So, Kay, before we jump into just what your team has learned through all of this transformation, and also just your point of view on the future of how our media business will impact you to do your own job and have an impact on your business, can you first share a little bit about what's your role inside Kroger and how does your team kind of work together?
Sure, happy to. And thanks so much for having me here today, Lauren. As you were rattling off those stats, it was giving me kind of like goosebumps, just because we would never have expected. Those were the kind of numbers that we would have seen in 2020. Yeah. Of course, the pandemic changed all of that. I also can feel like we can take credit for creating better cooks at home, better bakers, people who know food better. And so I think that was also a good thing to come out of it. But as for my role, so I lead Kroger's integrated media team. We're part of Kroger's larger marketing team, but my team is responsible specifically for integrated media strategy, media partnerships, sponsorship strategy and activations, media management, and our performance activation teams. And over the last year, what we've been doing is making intentional shifts towards what we call people-based media planning and buying. And we've really accelerated our focus on outcome-based media activation. So what that means for us, it means reporting back to the organization what marketing's contribution is in driving incremental sales and trips, versus the standard media metrics, where if we brought them in and shared them with our executives, the first question was always like, okay, but what does that mean for the business? So since we've been implementing these changes, we've now seen a 20% lift in our own ROI in terms of that. And then coupled with our master brand launch of Fresh for Everyone, we've also seen an 80% increase in overall ad effectiveness. So we're really happy about that as well.
Those are impressive stats, especially coming off of the year that you guys have had. So I'm curious, we've all made, experience and have had some major learnings this year. What has been your team's biggest learning through all of this disruption? And how would you ultimately characterize Kroger's current position to effectively market and have that continued, impact and result to your business as you look to the future of how our business is evolving?
Sure. We're really fortunate because we've just seen such an influx of new customers enter into our ecosystem, shopping with us because of the pandemic. So we really benefited. What's interesting is we started to see a direct correlation as cities went into lockdown. Our customers and new customers started shopping with us online. And then as restrictions started to open up, we saw shoppers and new customers come to us in store. And because we ground ourselves with the customer, they're the focus of everything that we do, and they guide everything that we do. We've had to be really, really nimble. We've had to shift our media approach on the fly as the world around us has changed, as our customers' behaviors have correspondingly changed, and having to be nimble, meeting them wherever they are, delivering the messages that matter to them in that moment and on whatever channel they're currently using. So in 2020, that was a really great training ground for us to do this. We did revise our media strategy early on to build in as much flexibility as possible to modify those plans and buys based on the signals we were getting back from our customers. So we adjusted our media mix. We shelved long plan messaging and shifted to messaging that was more relevant for the time. So that meant safety messaging, that it is safe to shop in our stores. Thank you messaging for our associates as well as our customers. And our associates in our stores truly are our frontline workers. And I just have the greatest respect and admiration for them and the work that they do. But when restrictions began to ease, like over the summer there for a little bit, our customers began shopping with us in store, but then circumstances were requiring them to stretch their dollars even more. So then we shifted to value messaging. And now vaccines are so top of mind for our customers. So now we're using our media to drive vaccinations, and happy to report that we've now administered over 2.3 million COVID vaccinations across our entire enterprise, and many more to come over the next few months. So we're carrying those learnings now into 2021. And so while we do leverage our first party data for targeting and measurement where we can, we're also implementing a very robust learning framework, getting comfortable working with cohort audiences, getting ourselves ready to work in multiple clean room environments, and to learn our way through this constant state of disruption and set ourselves in a really good place for 2022. And what I'm super excited about is this is the first year where we are fully jointly planning with our partners in loyalty, performance, lifecycle marketing. So it really is a holistic, full funnel, customer-centric plan to ensure we're delivering the best experience for our customers and across every marketing activation.
Yeah, being a part of a marketing organization myself, I can imagine the hurdles and just the amount of work it takes to align all of those different teams against common goals and using the same technology to really, create that holistic, full funnel approach that's rooted in data, that is going to drive that ROI, that when you guys sit down at the table with your executive team, that you guys can, talk that language and really prove that that value. And I should add thank you to Kroger, because as of Monday, I am fully vaccinated thanks to
Oh, yay.
your
Awesome.
thanks to your operation. So it's very exciting to get back into life hopefully soon.
Yes.
So it's very clear then that you guys are operating as a very data-driven marketing organization. You are in likely an enviable position to many marketers, given your robust first-party data. I am curious though, through all this rapid pivot and change from the consumer behavior side, and how you guys have been able to adapt to that. When you think about the future of our business, and you think specifically about the loss of traditional identifiers, cookies, and IDFA, and the immense impact, the impending immense impact that will have on all of us, how are you guys thinking about that impact to you and your first party data and your ability to use it not only within your own walls, but then as you look to expand further outside?
Yeah, so you had to go there, didn't you, Lauren?
I had to.
And rightly so. It is just so top of mind, I know, for us and probably for a bunch of other marketers out there. And so this is where I feel like Kroger, we're coming from a really solid foundation, even before the pandemic, even before all of the traditional identifiers conversations and changes have been happening. So we built our first party customer base, and we've been building it for decades and working it for decades now. And it has significant scale. It's really high quality just by virtue of our customers, and they shop with us weekly, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times weekly. So it's just really such great quality data. And so, but with that said, we still focus a portion of our marketing spend to continually welcome new customers into Kroger and grow our first party contactable customer base. So that's really important for us, and that is foundational for us. And so it's within our own walls. That's where we do the best of our personalized messaging one-to-one. We take care of our customers through care and nurture journeys. We drive greater loyalty over time. And our partners over at 8451, they apply relevancy sciences with such amazing precision. And they implement it across the various customer touch points in a really personalized way. And we're able to do that at scale. Mm. Now, in offsite media channels, of course, that world is getting quite a bit more challenging for us. We still do leverage our first party data, but then we're grouping them into what we call strategic targets. And we expand them into larger yet similar audiences so that we can activate across the various media channels. We've also entered into some very key partnerships for us that helps us to further dimensionalize those strategic targets using second party, third party intent, and as well as audience signals to make sure we're landing that messaging right. And then using those same kinds of signals to dynamically optimize our creative assets ongoing to deliver the right message and really drive for the best performance. Mm-hmm. Now, what's key in all of this is having a really robust learning framework in place. It's so critical at this time for us, and I think for all marketers, to understand what's working, what's not working, and then use that as a basis to inform future strategies.
Yeah, I think that is going to be, the most underlying kind of foundational framework for any modern day marketing organization, is to be able to understand all of the kind of all the different tentacles that you have working, and then being able to adapt to that in real time, like you were saying, and meet your customer where they are. And when we think about the future again of where our business is going, obviously technology, advanced technology is going to play a huge role. How have your team really leveraged and leaned into technology to help with some of that translation of those signals and all of that data, so that you can make sure that you're adapting and creating the right future strategies?
Yeah, so Yeah, as I was saying earlier, we do have a robust and proprietary CRM program in place already. And over the years, we have steadily developed our marketing tech stack. And now it is at a place, and I'm super excited about it, where we can now action off of those customer data signals and insights. Because customer first is just part of our DNA. It guides everything that we do. So we use that to develop our overall marketing objectives, to arrive at what are our goals, our media strategies, to identifying our strategic targets, and then being able to activate on-prem as well as in our offsite channels.
Mhm.
And because of that internally built relevancy science that truly personalizes those experiences to customers when they're logged into our owned and operated channels, we're now able to explore applying that relevancy science at the strategic target level and leveraging it across all of our offsite media channels. There is technology that underpins all of this, and it took us a long time to get there. It was not easy.
I
It
can't.
required making a lot of business cases to the C-suite to make that happen.
Yeah.
But bit by bit, we got there. And so pretty excited for where we're headed now.
Yeah, that digital transformation can be a long and winding road for a lot of people.
Mhm.
So, of course, being Watson Advertising, a part of IBM, we are true believers in advanced technology like artificial intelligence. And as you mentioned with your first party data set, that you guys have been building that for decades. IBM has similarly been building artificial intelligence technology for the equal part of decades. And we kind of understand the potential it might have to shape the future of our business, to create this open web and ecosystem that I know we all want, both as consumers, but also as professional marketers. I would love to hear your perspective and Kroger's views of artificial intelligence, if you've been using it in certain use cases in your business, and what your experience with it has been.
Yeah, so this is an area that our company has been really interested in on multiple fronts. And one example that I'll give you, and it's a big one for us, is our partnership with Ocado. And Ocado is really a leader in grocery e-commerce, and they're quite well known, more in the UK and doing very well there. But that partnership has introduced to the United States via Kroger proprietary technology that leverages artificial intelligence, advanced robotics, as well as automation. And it's done in just the most incredibly seamless and efficient way, from a fulfillment perspective, from picking and delivery capabilities, even with fresh products. It's just amazing how the robotics can actually pick really
And not
fresh.
bruise.
Yes, and not bruise, and do it in such a gentle way. But really, it just enables a more efficient, more streamlined way to get our customers the groceries that they want, as well as general merchandise. So we're starting to roll that out now, with plans for expansion throughout the country and even beyond our existing store footprint. So that's number one. So that's at the big enterprise level.
Yeah.
Now, specifically within marketing and media, what we're excited about is leveraging AI in the area of content and creative. So, for example, the way we used to version our ads, we go by different names throughout the country. And so just versioning for us is just a part of what we have to do. But it was a very manual, very labor intensive, time intensive process for our teams. And so now we are exploring ways, implementing AI in the creation of copy and imaging versioning. It's using visual intelligence. We're integrating it into our systems. And this is now automatically producing thousands of versions for us in like hardly any time at all. And then with the ability to optimize those versions based on performance readouts that are coming back, within our ecosystem. Now, we do leverage AI in aspects of dynamic audience creation So that's going to be a nice marry to that in real time. And that's based off of our on-site user behaviors, as well as optimizations towards certain KPIs. And we're just expecting that it's the kind of AI that learns over time, and then it's just going to become more advanced. And I did want to call it one super fun way that we're leveraging AI, and that's with our launch of ChefBot. So ChefBot is an app. It's on mobile, so you can download it. And what it does is it uses image AI. It recognizes food items in your pantry, in your refrigerator, and it suggests recipes and directs you to Kroger.com. And it's awesome because it gets better at recognizing food items the more images are kind of loaded into the system, and then it personalizes the recipes to that user too. So that's really fun. Yeah, and we're seeing some nice awards from that as well. But with all of this, AI, even with AI, there are costs associated with that, right? So we do need to keep a close eye on the return of those investments, because even AI, and in implementing it, it is expected, the expectation is it needs to drive a higher ROI, because we don't want it to cannibalize our media spend.
Yeah. And I think, one of the value that I've personally seen of it, with AI, just having been ingrained in it for the last 5 or 6 years, is that it can help, marketing teams like yourself really focus and kind of take some of that manual effort, like you described, and allow your teams to just focus on more of the high value, so that you can better, report out and drive those higher ROIs. I think even just creating some of those efficiencies will dramatically transform marketers' impact to the bottom line. I know that just over the last 5 years, like I said, I know many marketers who understand and see the value of artificial intelligence, but are still struggling with finding like the right use cases and the right best practices to learn from, so that they can apply it to their business. We actually recently partnered with the IAB and other industry leaders to create this AI standards working group, purposely so that we could help, deliver some of those use cases and standards to hopefully, help people understand the value and drive that adoption of AI. And actually, in a report I know I recently shared with you, we did highlight some other use cases and examples of technology like dynamic creative optimizations that aligns nicely with what you were describing. And in fact, our technology that leverages Watson's AI is not reliant on cookies. So it's a way that, it's another example of how this future of our business, we all need solutions that aren't going to, be held to these identifiers that, are kind of will be limited in the future. And, I also think when it comes to, dynamic messaging, like you were mentioning, I think AI will also help you kind of not necessarily only focus on the contextual relevancy of your message, but instead amass lots of different data signals from consumer behavior to the device that they're on or something, so that you can then predict and dynamically assemble those messages in real time based off of campaign performance KPIs versus only contextual relevancy. And I know in April's Open, she was even mentioning the advancements of streaming and how another shift in consumer trend, that's where everyone's headed. And in fact, our latest advancement in some of our creative technology is applying it to video. That is such an area too, where I know marketers are resource constrained, they're ineffective optimizations, or they're really facing this need to drive that personalized, like one-to-one messaging through video onto channels like CTV or OTT, but it's kind of difficult to actually do that now. And drive that measurable result that marketing organizations really need to prove. And I'm hopeful that as we see all of those types of AI technology that you described, both from the consumer value of being able to put a recipe better together based off of what I've got on my fridge, down to allowing marketers to create those efficiencies like you mentioned, and really drive that higher value for their organizations, I just think is so optimistic, and I'm excited to see that continue to grow. So to that end, and I'm curious, Kay, like I'm a glass half full kind of person typically. maybe not in the last year, but I'm curious, when you think about the future, what is it about just, your business or just our ecosystem and our media business in general? What gives you the most anxiety? But also simultaneously, like, what are you optimistic about? What do you think we've got like in store for us?
Yeah, I feel like nowadays that's really a double-sided coin.
Yeah.
So what gives me the most anxiety about the media future is it's this constant state of disruption. It is a constant state of worry. It almost feels like it's always just sitting right there, just under the surface, and you're always having and it's always like, saying, "Hey, remember, you gotta solve for this."
Mhm.
But truly, any major announcement, any new regulation, right now we're seeing it on a state by state basis.
Mhm.
It can have such a major impact on our plans as well as our go to market strategies. Um, Sometimes it requires major modifications or overhauls, even to our ad tech infrastructure,
Mhm.
because there's new requirements and whatever else, and they can often be costly to do that because you need engineers, you need analysts on board, you need data scientists on board, and it's just getting so much harder to rationalize because you can't keep going back and asking for more capital.
Mhm.
And often there's not enough time, because when you put in your plans to prove out the case of what you presented before, then all of a sudden this new change comes in, and you've not even proved out the first, iteration.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like we're at a reckoning now, in the industry, and where we have known for some time now, what is it that our users really want?
Yeah.
And so we know where it's headed, and we know it's giving users full transparency and control over how their data is being used. So you know what? Let's embrace it.
Yeah. Let's
Uh,
do it.
let's
Band-Aid.
let's get on board and let's make it better. So uh, I'm of the mind now that I just much rather let's build now for that future rather than continuing to spend so much time and energy and resources in developing these interim workarounds. And there's so many of them, um, just in attempt to hang on as long as possible to the old ways that we were able to do stuff.
Yeah.
And so with that, the other side of the coin is that does make me really optimistic for the future, because once you can get yourself there,
Mhm.
it just means that, our customers are going to get what they've been asking for: greater control, full transparency, and then operating in an industry that really is fast tracking learning for that future state, understanding what it takes to deliver truly great customer experiences and value for customers, driving long-term growth, not just for us, but for all companies as well as the industry at large. I think it's going to be a really great thing for customers in the end.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And honestly, I don't know if I could have summarized my own sentiment about the future on both sides of the coin better. Um, Especially, I'm just optimistic thanks to just that we live in a world where technology is at its point where I can get a vaccine from Kroger to support the future of my
Right?
own personal life. Like, yay, advancements in health technology, but also just AI technology to help us as in our professional lives, to support that, the control and the transparency and this open web that you've described. And let's build for the future. And I think we can. And I'm optimistic that collectively we can get there. So Clay, it's been such a pleasure. I know
Here, what
I
fun.
like learning just about your business and your people-based approach, and how just watching Kroger having to adapt so quickly. And I'm genuinely actually excited to observe your work from afar. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that.
April, I think that is it. And if there are any questions that were shared, we'd be happy to answer any. We have 8 questions. Okay,
Okay, good.
let's see. Um, okay, I think this one might be for you. Let's see. The first one is, How do you approach emerging media channels and how do they factor into your overall strategy?
Yeah, so we are always open to emerging media channels and often are the first ones raising our hand to say, hey, we want to be a part of your alpha or your beta. Um, and we do that because um, it's Kroger's unique in that we have to be able to deliver very regionally. So we've got to vet things out that make sense from a regional perspective, number one. Number two, we always want to look at it from the customer lens, and how does it tie into our overall media strategy for the year? Is
Mhm,
it going to contribute to our overall objectives and goals?
mhm,
But we very much want to understand that emerging space very, very quickly so that we can understand how to better leverage it.
mhm.
So the way we often approach it is we will often want to run a pilot, and where we can test it, in a certain part of our enterprise, and see to what degree does it pay out. We prefer to do that just because of the complexity of running campaigns in support of our entire enterprise.
Mm.
And we need to make sure the pipes are in place.
Yeah.
Often there are pipes that are needed, data flowing through. You've got to work it through security and legal and data gov, et cetera. And then a lot of it is kind of vetting it out from that whole standpoint.
Mhm,
Are we able to get creative out there in a meaningful way for whatever that emerging channel is?
mhm.
And then see if it pays out. And if it pays out, well, then we're the kind that's going to want to scale it pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I imagine with how much, your audience has likely grown over the last year, maybe even attracting even younger audiences than maybe before. I'm
Mhm.
sure those emerging platforms are something that you've been, leaning into as you see your segments and your cohort starting to expand.
Yep.
There was another question here too that was actually related to behavioral changes of some of your consumers, so that working from home and distancing have altered consumer media and digital habits. And they were curious if you were seeing, when it comes to different types of behavioral changes, like and how they're adapting.
Yeah, so I would say the biggest adaptation that we've seen from our customers is how quickly they've embraced e-commerce for grocery.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like grocery has been one of those holdouts just because people like to go in store. They like to,
It,
see
it,
the apple,
yeah.
smell it, and that sort of thing. And the working from home and being distant has just really accelerated that trend for us. And it's gotten our shoppers comfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's so great for them because now it gives them the option to shop in whatever way makes sense for them that week.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, it's going to mean that when they do have time, they're going to want to shop in store, or if they've got a special occasion or a special event, they're going to want to do that in store. But for their everyday or like weekly shop where it's the same items, they can do pickup or they can choose delivery, or they can even do ship now too. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and furthermore, what we've seen even within our own customer base, even our older customer base, who those are the last ones to, kind of embrace shopping
Yeah.
online, now they're fully on board and very comfortable with it.
Mhm.
That's those are some of the biggest adaptations we've seen.
And I've even read recently that it's even not when or how, but even what they're putting in their basket. I
Yes.
think I read a stat around that OTC, like pharma and healthcare products, were some of the highest adopted e-commerce purchases last year, which makes a ton of sense. But
Mhm.
I think even just like what they're putting in their basket will change, as this trend continues. We actually did some research ourselves because as part of Watson Advertising and IBM, one of our platforms is weather.com. And
Mhm.
we reach 300 million consumers every month. And so we use them to kind of help to understand consumer trends and behaviors as well. And we ran a study, I think it was back in February or March, where we saw that, so what you were similar saying, that consumers are actually excited to get back in store, but they're also they like this tried and true behavior of shopping online, and that they will continue to shop online, but that their basket size might change. So maybe
Yes.
instead of doing this huge bulk order to get me through the week or plus, that they might get their, their baselines. And then they might go in store to do a smaller shop to supplement for the week. So I think just being observing of how the e-commerce and in-store starts to play together will be fascinating to watch.
Well, and just another interesting trend we saw from our customers is they began trading up
Yeah.
in the types of products that they bought because, they wanted to be able to indulge, even if it meant being at home in
Yeah.
the small ways that they can.
Little luxuries.
Yep. And alcohol sales through the
All the
roof.
way up.
Yep.
I can attest to that.
Mhm.
I think we might have a question. If there's a question in here that looks good to UK, but actually this is an interesting one. So when you look at media partnerships, given that is under your purview, especially in TV, how do you see that for yourself evolving into the next year?
Oh, wow. Well, TV partnerships have gotten so complex now. Yeah. And so, first off, when we think about TV, we now just think of it all as video,
Yep.
and even our linear buying and digital buying, it's all now, we've just kind of combined it all into one group and really consolidated our thinking around that. And so we are having to think about it more holistically. And you have to, in order to get the kind of scale, albeit more targeted scale, just because video viewing has become so fragmented across so many channels. And now what we're seeing this year is that all of the big ownership groups, so for example, like a Disney and Hulu are now coming in together, and so the bundling is something that we are starting to see and trying to think through, okay, well, how does that now fit within, our strategy and our tactical plans? So it is something that we are watching. We're having very close conversations with all of the big players and trying to work through that with them.
Great. Well, April, I think that we are at time. I think we got through quite a bit of questions.
Awesome. Kay, Lauren, thank you so much for joining us and for such a great kickoff to our day. I think Kroger's ability to be able to react to those real-time consumer signals in both media and messaging really lays that long-term foundation needed for most of us marketers to get to that true outcome-based media activation that you talked about. I think the other benefit of that is it just creates an opportunity